What's up, everybody? It has been a little bit since I've gone back to this well. But you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on right now in this part of the world, and I want to talk about it for a second. So we'll get into that after the video's over, all right? But before we do, a couple things. I got my coffee, number one. Number two, I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert. I don't speak Russian, and I'm just an enthusiast. Okay, I'm just a guy who likes music, and tries to make some points about it. Second part is don't be a dick. You may not like this kind of music. You may not like this song. You may not like me. You may not like my opinion. These things are all fine. You are certainly welcome to disagree. But I would ask that you be respectful. I try to be respectful and thoughtful in my reviews, and I would ask for a little bit of that in return. So the song we're doing is TRRST by IC3PEAK featuring ZILLAKAMI. I really like this song. Let's get into it.
They say I'm a terrorist. What? I did nothing wrong, but I got on a blacklist. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. Why? If the mistake's coming, I need mama to right. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. What? I did nothing wrong, but I got on a blacklist. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. Why? If the mistake's coming, I need mama to right. Вроде бы плохо, вроде нормально. Больше нет слез, даже если больно. Будь собой, никого не слушай. Им нужны деньги, мне нужны души. I feel so wrong, but it seems normal. No more tears, even if you hurt me. Будь собой, никого не слушай. Им нужны деньги, мне нужны души. Is it so wrong if I want to die, want to die? Is it so wrong if I want to cry, want to cry? Is it so wrong if I want to die, want to die? Is it so wrong if I want to cry, want to cry? Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. What? I did nothing wrong, but I got on a blacklist. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. Why? If the mistake's coming, I need mama to right. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. What? I did nothing wrong, but I got on a blacklist. Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. Why? If the mistake's coming, I need mama to right.
Mama, they say I'm a terrorist. My condition so derelict and no glue needed on a severance. And the war started and the activist. It's all war for a man with a face that up. We laced up black little boots. Okay, over your head after what you said they can snipe us up on the roof. Okay, back in food is here for a day. In AK cause it never embrace. Kiss your mom by and run away. Run away, just run away. Hit me from the gallows in front of them all. Watch my neck break when I make the fall. Hit me from the gallows in front of them all. Look at me dead and say problem is solved.
Is it so wrong if I want to die, want to die? Is it so wrong if I want to cry, want to cry? Is it so wrong if I want to die, want to die? Is it so wrong if I want to cry, want to cry?
All right. I'm a huge fan of this song, and there's a couple reasons why. Before I get into those, let me just say up front, I support the Ukrainian war efforts, the defense of Ukraine. I support IC3PEAK because they've been outspoken on this issue. They risk a lot by being outspoken. They are an outspoken band. They are a political group. They make videos with themes that are unacceptable to the morals and standards of modern Russia. Okay, so I feel comfortable speaking out in praise of them because I think they're doing good things. I like them as artists. I like them as musicians. And look, there are plenty of scumbag artists who were great artists. Dali, right? Salvador Dali was a fascist, and I despise fascists, but he made some great art, right? Those two things can exist in the same person. But I would not be talking about a pro-fascist artist right now, right? So I like IC3PEAK. I like what they stand for. I think what they stand for are good things. I do not have time for anybody. If you want to come in here and start talking about why Ukraine is actually in the wrong, you can fuck right off. Okay? I have been following this for 6 months, and I know more about it than you think I do. I have also been looking into Russia and Ukraine relations for longer than 6 months. So I do know more about it than you think I know. I am not going to be easily snowed by your bullshit, I promise. So go bother somebody else. I will respond to you, and then I will eliminate your comments from my channel. Okay? I'm just not interested. I do like a good fight. I love to spar intellectually, but you often don't provide me with anything worth sparring on. It's disappointing. Anyway, so I want to say, first of all, this song is a little bit more pertinent right now as people who are resisting the government, resisting mobilization, resisting the draft, just protesting in the streets whether or not they've been drafted. That's very dangerous. That is very dangerous. People are getting disappeared, and you just don't know what's going to happen to them. So I have a lot of respect for people in Russia who are willing to risk their lives, risk their freedom, to speak out against an unjust war. I don't have a lot of feelings that there are many just wars, just to be clear with you. I'm not entirely a pacifist, but I skew towards that direction. But this one is absolutely a war of conquest, a war of trying to gain territory, and a genocidal one at that. And I, do not support that. I don't care what you think about NATO. I don't care what you think about Ukraine. You're wrong. You're just wrong. You're just wrong. This one is pretty simple. But part of the reason, actually, this shirt is very thematically appropriate, although I didn't plan it this way. This song was a last-second decision. I was part of some protests in 2020. Now, this song was not written about the protests in the U.S., the George Floyd aftermath protests, but I attended a couple of those. And I was at protests where there were snipers and drones, and I have met people who they're still in jail for contrived reasons. That only happens in foreign countries, you know. Brittany Griner's in jail in Russia for nothing, right? For possibly planted evidence. Let's say she brought in her weed cartridge to Russia. Bad idea, but not a reason to be in jail for this long. That's specifically intended to send a message, right? That's a point. It's a political message. I know people who are in prison right now for convenient reasons because they were leading protests and they were stirring things up and they were trying to make things happen in their communities. And the police couldn't have that, so they put them in jail. And they're still fucking there. Over a year. And the way protesters were portrayed by much of the country, not the whole country, there was some media that was pro-protest, but mostly it wasn't. Even the stuff that kind of agreed with, like, you know, there's too much racism in America, they tended to cover it from let's not break anything, let's not set anything on fire, you know, let's be respectful and calm and just let's do things that don't inconvenience the people in power so they don't have any reason to change anything. Right? What's the point of a protest if nobody's inconvenienced? If it doesn't affect somebody's bottom line, right? That's what a boycott is for. If you boycott, you're trying to hurt the company that you're boycotting. You're trying to hurt the people that you're boycotting. If you're protesting, you don't get a 2-hour window where you go and you wave your signs and you don't say anything mean, you don't say any swear words, and you just hope that they'll respect you and listen to you because you're so polite and respectful. People tried that. People have been trying that for a long time. And it does not work because they don't care. It doesn't affect them. And the way protesters were being talked about on the right side of the, not right in that they're correct, in that they're the fascists, right? The pro-right wing, was they wanted to kill us, all of us. They just wanted us dead. They wanted opportunities to kill us. They were looking for reasons to use their guns. They were hoping that the government would put us in jail. It's very curious how people are out in the streets protesting against police brutality, particularly police brutality against black men. And the protesters are the ones who are the bad guys. It almost makes you think that the people who thought the protesters were the bad guys might have bad opinions about, say, black people, and say the way police should operate in this country, which is already basically with impunity. Anyway, I know that's a lot of... This song is very relevant. It's very relevant to Russian people who are protesting. It would be very relevant to the Iranian people who are currently protesting and the Kurdish people who are involved in those protests. Doesn't often get mentioned, but Gina Mahsa Amini was Kurdish. She was of Kurdish descent, which not always popular. This song is relevant to a lot of parts of the world right now, in fact, as it was 2 years ago. I have had a small amount of personal experience with this, but I wasn't out in the streets every day, risking my life every day. A lot of people are, and a lot of people are going to get killed in protests. And a lot of people consider that a good thing, both in that part of the world and also here, because our political divide right now is pretty ugly. Anyway, ZILLAKAMI, great verse, part of City Morgue, for those of you who aren't familiar. He also has his own solo project. He's a good rapper. I like this track. I really enjoy this one, and I think it has a message that I, as an English speaker, can easily understand, because it's largely in English. I think that's it. I there's so much I could say. There's so much going on, but I don't have the time to get into it. To all the people who are out in the streets, who are, risking their lives for a better life, maybe for a better life for their friends or their relatives, or, look, not everybody that's in the streets is gonna go to the war, but people who will. Not everybody in the streets in Iran are in the streets because they're the ones being oppressed. They're in the streets because people they love are being oppressed. Not everybody out there at a gay rights march or rally is gay, but people who are. You love people who are queer or gender nonconforming or societally nonconforming, or they're black. There were a lot of white people in those protests, as commentators on the right pointed out over and over again. Look at all the white people out here protesting for Black Lives Matter. Well, I've got black friends. All my friends have black friends. And we are less of a target than black people. If you look into, and this will wrap up the video, I'll finish it up here, but the Ferguson protests, right, in 2014, I believe, after Michael Brown was killed. If you look into what happened to particularly the young men who were sort of the face of those protests, and you see how many of them are dead now, it will give you a different picture of what it really means, even in America, even in the land of laws and, law and order, right? If you look at how many of those young men have died since those protests, and you look at how it happened, it is hard to avoid coming to the conclusion that they were being targeted. You don't see that happen so much with white folks. So yeah, we should be out there because my friends are the ones who have to fucking suffer, right? I don't have to suffer that shit. So why don't I go out and take a little bit of the heat? Why do I have to ask them to go take the heat? That's my opinion. Go check out what happened after Ferguson. Just go look into it. That'll do it, everybody. This one was pretty serious and not a lot about the music, frankly. It's a great song. I like the song. I like the lyrics. But there's other stuff that I wanted to talk about with this. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Drink lots of water and don't talk to cops.